Keep real estate equity liquid and don't lose when values go down. In this episode, I'm going to address the question, what is the best way to manage real estate? Get ready. I'm going to share some insights that maybe you've never thought of before, and I'm going to show you how to dramatically increase your return on your real estate. So I have authored many books, 11 thus far, and my goal is to release a new book every year or two the rest of my life. My first book, titled Missed Fortune, talked about the fortunes people miss out on because they simply don't know what they don't know because of all these money myth conceptions that I talked about. Well, a lot of people were blown away when I shared actual stories of people who lost all of their real estate in foreclosures because they were managing their real estate wrong. So I'm Doug Andrew, and I'm very passionate about educating people. I've been a financial strategist, retirement planning specialist for more than 4.5 decades. But in 2005, I let all of my professional licenses automatically expire to become a consumer advocate, write books, get on the radio, get on TV, and empower you. So this is about you. This isn't about me. But I'm going to share some stories with you. Oftentimes, people start owning or buying real estate, and the vast majority think, okay, I'm going to buy this piece of real estate, this rental property, a single resident home, a duplex, a fourplex, a strip mall, okay? I have many clients that are billionaires, and they did it owning real estate. But when they came to my educational seminars, they were like, I never thought of that. Most of them were buying it, taking the rental income, plowing as much as they could against the mortgage to hurry and get the mortgage paid off as soon as possible. And then they can sit back and collect rental income. But then they admitted, golly, being a landlord, I'm always taking out trash, fixing toilets, evicting tenants, and I don't know. They thought that was going to be retirement. And then they hit retirement, and it's so management intensive, and they've been doing 1031 exchanges, just going from the frying pan into the fire, inheriting new headaches, but they're sort of stuck. And they thought this portfolio of real estate was going to provide a nice, calm, peaceful retirement. Well, they have usually a couple of choices. They either have to hire a professional management firm, which oftentimes I can give you horror stories where they have embezzled money and it went into the ground. I had one gentleman, he was 76 years old, owned 2 big apartment complexes. He had a stroke and went into a convalescent care rehab center. And in 9 months, the manager he hired went from 95% occupancy down to less than 70%, and she had embezzled hundreds of thousands of dollars. It took him 2 years to get it back to the way he managed it. Oftentimes, people think, well, I don't want to sell these because then I'll have to pay a capital gain tax. I don't want to sell these. These are my kids' inheritance. And almost without exception, I bring the kids into the room and I say, okay, now, would you shoot straight with your mom and dad here? What are you going to do with all of these rental properties as soon as they're 6 feet under? And they hesitate and they go, Mom and Dad, we don't want to offend you, but we hate these. On the way home from the funeral, the for sale sign's going up. And they go, what? We put our blood, sweat, and tears into this. We don't love it like you do. We just want the money. So I show them how they can sell it. I have helped so many people manage their real estate better. For example, in the San Francisco Bay Area, where I have a lot of people that hear me on the radio, we have people down there that have 5-bedroom homes that they built 45 years ago for $230,000, and they're now worth $4.8 million. And they're renting it out for $10,000 a month. Look at us. I go, that's pathetic. $10,000 a month is $120,000 a year. Divide that into 4.8 million. You're earning 2.5% annual return. That's pathetic. You could sell that and buy 13 homes, build a new $800,000 home somewhere else, twice this size. And we actually have a client that did this. 13 homes in Memphis, Tennessee. A 5-bedroom home is worth $300,000 and it rents for 1% a month, $3,000 a month. We quadrupled their cash flow. They are getting $40,000 a month instead of $10,000 a month. They have newer properties and they're being managed. They don't have to fix toilets and evict tenants anymore. Or people sometimes, they sell the property, pay the capital gain tax, because this is probably the lowest capital gain rate you'll ever be in at the recording of this video, because tax revenuers want to take the capital gains tax from 15 and 20% for high income earners up to 40% and do away with the step-up in basis on long-term capital gains. So what are you waiting for? When we sell and pay the tax and we put it into a portfolio of my favorite financial instruments, it's called the Laser Fund, they're blown away that it generates more tax-free cash flow than the apartments ever generated in rental income, especially after tax. And they go, where have you been, Mr. Andrew? I said, I've been here all along. You've had your blinders on, thinking that real estate was the cat's meow the way you were managing it, paying it off, and then taking income. That's not going to work. You've been getting tax write-offs, and the only way out of it is to sell and pay the capital gain. They're going to come back and make up for all the tax write-offs you got when you depreciated the properties. So let me give you a few insights here. So before I do, if you're enjoying this and you're getting insights, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, because I have tons of educational content on this channel and I want to help you understand these concepts better. Now, here's some insights. There's a lot of people that I've helped that when I came across them, they were sending all kinds of extra principal payments against the mortgages on their properties, thinking that was the best thing to do. And then what happened? In 2001, after the terrorist attacks, real estate dropped. I mean, in the Great Depression, real estate dropped, some of it 80%. Banks closed, 40% never reopened again. Where did I have my money, my serious cash? In the multi-trillion-dollar insurance industry. My favorite vehicle I call the Laser Fund. It's a maximum funded insurance contract where I have earned averages between 7 to 10%. Worst case in some years is only 5 or 6%, but I've averaged 8 to 10% for the last 25 years tax-free. Now that's better than most IRAs and 401ks in the country, especially because you have to pay tax on those. So how does this all relate together? So when we have things happen to us that we had no idea would happen, like 9/11, and the market drops 40% in 3 years, and it takes 4 years to come back to break even, and then again in 2008, as Warren Buffett put it, when the tide went out in 2008, it revealed who was swimming naked, he said. Well, we're talking about people who they thought the smart thing to do was to send extra principal payments to the mortgage on their house or their rental properties. And then all of a sudden, they're out of a job. They get sick, they get disabled. And they call up the mortgage company and they say, hey, I figure I'm several years ahead. I've been sending you an extra $500 to $1,000 a month. What are they going to tell you? No. I knew a guy that got a windfall and paid $900,000 against his mortgage, and then he got disabled. The next mortgage payment was still due. They foreclosed on it because they're going to foreclose on you faster if you have a bunch of equity. If you don't have much equity, they'll work with you all day long if you owe more than what the property has depreciated down to. Oh, okay, well, can you make this much? But if you have a lot of equity, 90 days. I have seen so many people lose all the progress they made sending extra principal payments to the mortgage company when they had a financial setback. So what did that accomplish? So Doug, what do? I accumulate all my money. I keep my real estate equity over here in this right-hand pocket because I compound my money tax-free. I'm earning 6, 7, 8, 9%, 10% tax-free. The mortgage, if I borrow money at 4.5%, it's tax deductible. In a 33% bracket, it doesn't cost me 4.5, it costs me 3. So every million I borrow at 3% is costing me 30 grand. Over here in this pocket, I'm compounding. The first year I make 90 grand on the million. Why would I take this money and put it over here? Why would I fire an employee that's costing me 30,000 when that employee is making me 90? If you bought a widget machine for 30,000 that made you 90,000, how many widget machines would you buy? But see, I can prove to you mathematically, if you want to get out of debt, you'll have enough money in this right-hand pocket, compounding tax-free, to pay off the mortgage 2.5 years faster than if you sent that money to the mortgage company. But you're giving up liquidity. When you get into trouble, there's only one way to get it back. And that's to prove to the mortgage company that you need it and you have the ability to repay. When you need it the worst, it's the hardest to get. I know. I've learned that lesson. There's stories in my various books that talk about this. So managing real estate, I keep all my real estate equity over here, liquid and safe compounding. I leverage with full liquidity. Leverage without liquidity is stupidity, okay? But when I keep it over here liquid and safe compounding tax-free at 2 to 3 times the net cost of the mortgage over here, my net worth goes up dramatically, exponentially higher than just owning the real estate and paying it off. And I'm in control. I can give you dozens of stories about this. Unfortunately, I don't have time in this episode to share those stories with you, but I have dozens of them, and you can read about them, and you'll understand that when people really learn how money works, this is nothing new. Banks, credit unions have been borrowing our money for years. When you put your money in a bank or credit union, you're lending them your money. Are they just benevolent institutions paying you interest? No. What are they doing with your money? They're loaning it back out again. They pay us a measly 1%. We collectively put $1 million in a bank. They pay 1% interest to us. That's 10 grand a year. They turn around and they invest it and make 5%. How much more is 5 than 1? Don't say 4. It's 500% more. It's 5 times. Every 10 grand they pay in interest, they make 50,000 of interest. Would you hire an employee for 10 grand that made you an extra 50 grand? Would you buy a widget machine for 10 grand that made you an extra 50 grand? If this is intriguing you, read the stories of how to manage real estate effectively. I have an entire chapter dedicated to that on this side of the book. This is actually 2 books in one. This is the left brain side, all the charts and graphs and explanations. This side is the right brain side that has 62 actual client stories of how to optimize assets, minimize taxes, and empower your wealth. I want to gift you a copy of this book for free. You don't need to pay $19.95. I'll pay for the book. If you go to laserfund.com, L-A-S-E-R fund.com, contribute a nominal amount toward the shipping and handling, and I'll cover the rest of that cost. And I will pay for the book and fire that out to you. Please understand, learn, click on these videos on this channel, and you're going to gain insights into opportunities you never dreamed existed before.